For a person who doesn't like to lay out in the sun, I have been doing a lot of thinking about beach towels. And today I'm going to show you how to make this really easy beach towel roll up that has a handle that you can use. You can put that over your shoulder, or you can just hold it in your hand to get a big, luxurious beach towel with a built-in pillow to the beach, the pool, the lake, wherever you need a towel. For this project, we are not even going to need an iron, but you are going to need a lighter if you are going to use 1-inch nylon webbing, which is what I'm choosing to use because it is just going to make this so quick and easy, you're not even going to believe it. So I have one piece of nylon that is 14 inches, and I have one piece that is 44 inches long. Then I have one hand towel, and I have two beach towels. I have seen some of these projects online where it's like a beach towel and then it has a pillow and it's built in, and so you lay down, you have a pillow. But then I get to thinking, like, how is that pillow going to wash? I want to be able to wash anything that's been on the beach, on the damp ground, etc., etc. So I didn't want it to be a pillow. So I thought long and hard about it, and that is where I came up with the two towel option. We're going to make one towel that has these handles and has a built-in pillowcase, for lack of any other term, made out of a hand towel. And then this towel will slide in there and becomes your pillow. It also will be a great backup towel if all of a sudden you need more towels than you thought. The finished one, it's pretty big. Like, it almost looks like the size of a thin sleeping bag. And that is because I chose to get really big towels. I bought these at Walmart. They're from Better Homes and Garden. They're 38 inches wide by 72 inches long. So really long, nice and thick, but you can use any towel you want. Like if you're making this for kids, you'd probably want something smaller, maybe a different print. This is perfect for people of any size. So the first thing, we're just going to put the one towel to the side, put those to the side for the moment, and we are going to prepare our nylon. We want to make sure our nylon isn't going to fray. So we are going to very, very carefully use a lighter. I'm going to trim the nylon straight across. And this is just polyester, so it is going to melt with fire. Don't use your iron. I tried that actually. I was like, oh, I wonder if I just touch it to the edge of like an iron, if it would work. Well, it just got nylon onto the iron, so don't do that. So you just do this very gently, and you can see it kind of recoiling and melting. It gets a little bit dark. Then I hold that in my hand. I always make sure that I cut these little fraying pieces off, because if there's too much fraying, that can actually cause a little bit of a flame. I do not want anything flaming in my sewing area. So I'm just melting all four ends. The next thing we are going to do is we are going to attach the small loop. And the small loop is going to go on the top center front. So I'm just going to take this, I'm going to fold it in half and make sure I'm in the center. So this red stripe goes down the center. That makes things very, very easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this nylon under about 1 inch, and I'm going to pin it so that it's right next to the red, and it's down about 2 inches. That is not an exact science. We just want to make sure, we'll move it up a little bit more. You want to make sure that when you do both sides, that there's enough distance here that you're going to be able to loop the longer handle through that to tighten it. So I'm just going to pin that there. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So now we're going to head to the sewing machine. We're going to sew a square and an X to give these lots of strength, because there's going to be a bit of pressure put on this when this is rolled up. I'm going to be using blue top thread so that you can see what I'm doing, and because this is going to be covered with the hand towel. Now the other side will be visible, so you're going to want to pull up your bobbin thread. So basically you hold that top thread, you put your foot down, you put the needle down, holding that thread, needle up, give a little yank, and that pulls the bobbin thread up. I always keep tweezers at my sewing machine so that I have them to grab that. And then I also use it to help put the threads under the foot. That way I'm not putting my finger down here and poking it with the needle. Then I'm still holding both of those threads, and I'm going to sew forward and back to knot that. Holding the threads, make sure that it doesn't get sucked down and create one of those lovely bird's nests. Okay, now I'm going to sew all the way around in a rectangle and then the diagonals across. And that's going to give this a lot of strength so that this towel will last and work for years. See, that's nice and easy to see the shape of the sewing there. And now I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side. So now both sides of that short handle are sewn on, and let's go get the hand towel ready to sew on. Now that the small loop is sewn on, it is time to make our hand towel pillow pocket. That's what we'll call it. So we are just going to center that so it's even. You can fold it in half, make sure that center is in the center of that red stripe, and we are going to pin it onto the large towel. So first we're going to pin across this top section so that it's going to go even with this trim. Now comes the quandary. If you leave this totally flat and you stitch here, when you go to put the other towel in there, both this and the back are going to kind of buckle to accommodate the towel. And I want this big towel to lay nice and flat wherever I'm laying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this back and I'm going to grab my other towel. I'm going to place it where it's going to go, right? So it's going to go right in here. Well, it'll go in a little further because those pins are there, but I'm going to guess that this is going to be a good spot to sew that. I'm just going to hold that with my finger, bring my towel back and line that up. So I have the first one pinned. And then to make sure it's pretty straight, I'm going to just put a little fold in my towel so this looks straight. If you want to, you can grab a ruler and see if we did a good job. 12 and a half, 12 and a half, 12 and a half. Yep, line that up quite nicely. So now I'm going to pin all the way across this edge as well. And when you're doing that, you want to make sure that this bottom towel is flat. And at first, when I was thinking about how to design this, I was thinking that I would sew here, one short end and across here, but I have since changed my mind because trying to sew across the short end when it's going to have this large pocket section is going to make it all weird and bunchy. So I decided once you put this in here and you're laying down, it's not going anywhere. So we're just going to leave both ends open. Now sewing the hand towel to the towel, I'm going to use a top thread that matches. So I'm using the navy blue again, and then I'm going to use white for the bobbin because the bottom is going to be both blue and white, and I already have white in there, so I'm just going to leave that as white. These ends are what are going to get the most strain as you put your towel in and out. So instead of doing the boxes like we did for the strap, I'm just going to kind of do a few, almost like a triangle here to avoid this really thick part where the edges is folded over on the towel. So I'm going to pull up my bobbin thread. I'm going to keep it to the side of that big old lump. Now you do want to use a walking foot because this is pretty thick and fluffy, especially when you're doing both layers of towels and you need the extra help to keep everything moving. And because it is so thick right here and a little bit hard to turn it around, I'm just going to be going forward and backward to make kind of this triangle to give this extra strength. Now I'm just going to go sew straight down the side. Okay, so the one side is sewn, and now we're just going to do the same exact thing and sew down the other side of the hand towel. These could be a fun project for your whole family. You could make them for family reunions that are going to be at the beach or anywhere that involves water, or you could make them to sew and sell. It could be a unique gift that you would be able to sell as well. Let me know in the comments how you think you might make and use these. Now we have the hand towel pillow pocket, as we shall now call it, sewn on. And when you go to use it, you're going to take your second towel and you're simply going to feed it into that pocket. And it's nice to have both sides open because then you can kind of push and pull to get that situated. And look at how nice that is. That's going to be nice and comfortable. I've tried figuring out how to leave this towel in here and fold it up and where it is a little bit wider and still works, but it is a lot harder. And it's going to be harder when you're at the beach. When you're ready to leave, you're going to pull your pillow towel out. And kind of fold that down so that the pillow pocket is flat. and you're going to fold this in thirds. Okay, so the whole length of the towel, you just want to have that pretty evenly in thirds. My workspace is not conducive to showing you 72-inch long towel. So what we're doing now is we're acting like we're rolling this up on the beach so that we can figure out where we need to sew the second longer handle. So now you're going to take your pillow towel and fold it so that it is a little bit narrower than the bottom one and have it down from the top a little bit. We don't have to be precise. Then you're going to fold your towel that you were laying on, right? You're going to loop that up as far as it goes across the pillow towel. And then we are going to roll. That is where that is. Now, I'm noticing that this is loopy, so you might want to sew this first one down so it covers that entire thing. I think it'll be a little bit more finished looking. Now, what we need to do is mark where we want to start this one. So this is our long loop. So what we're going to do with this one is we are going to sew it onto each side of the blue stripe because this is the back of that red stripe. Then it will be sewn at the same place as this smaller one, and it's going to be looping through here. So what I do, I just sew it a few inches down. So you can just take a pen because it's going to be underneath that nylon. And now I'm going to know where I'm going to fold this in half and sew this on just like we sewed the other one on. So now that we have that marked, we're going to unroll. We're going to get our pillow towel out of the way. Open this back up. We're going to find our marks, which means we're going to fold that in half, or like fold down about an inch. I'm going to put that right over top of that mark. And I'm going to pin that in place just next to that stripe. And if you don't have a stripe, it's fine. You can do whatever distance. This stripe is 3.5 inches wide, and I feel like that's a pretty good distance. If you do it much further, then you will need to get slightly longer pieces of nylon. Now, one thing I do on this longer strap, because it's only going to be sewn on the bottom, is I make sure that the line across the top is above where it's folded, so that that end is totally encapsulated and it's not going to be sticking out when this is sewn together and this flips back. So we don't want it to show like that. We want that to be totally inside. All right, that was it. That was all the sewing. No ironing, no cutting, except for the nylon cording. This is super easy. So this long strap is sewn onto the back side, the side that will be on the sand, and it's not twisted, so we did good there. I did end up sewing boxes up here too, just so it's going to look a bit more finished when we have it all folded up. So let's roll this up and see how it looks. When you're folding it, you need to have the front side up. So if you're, laying at the beach, at the lake, wherever, you're just going to be folding from the direction that you were using it. We're just going to do that in thirds. Then we're going to take the towel that was the pillow towel, and we're going to put it right on top of this one, a few inches down from the top where this small handle is. We're going to fold the bottom. And if you use a smaller towel, this will be a little bit easier. But because I showed you exactly how to figure out where to put your straps, you're going to be able to do this with any length and thickness towel you want. So now it is time to roll. And you're just going to put that through. And then to really secure it, just pull it back and loop it through a second time. You have your handy carry strap and you are ready to go. Happy sewing and have fun.